What happens when a daytime television favorite gets too comfortable in her position of power and forgets that respect goes both ways? In just 36 seconds, one cutting remark would shatter the carefully constructed image of Britain's beloved morning host and expose the ugly truth lurking beneath the studio lights. The Loose Women set was buzzing with its usual energy. The cameras were rolling, the studio audience settled into their seats, and the panel was ready for another day of conversation and debate. Holly Willoughby sat in her usual spot, flanked by the other panelists. Denise Welch was the guest for the day, invited to discuss her latest project and share her thoughts on various topics. Nobody in that studio could have predicted what was about to unfold. The conversation started innocently enough. Holly opened with her trademark smile, welcoming Denise to the show. The other panelists, Nadia Sawalha and Kay Adams, chimed in with their own greetings. Everything seemed perfectly normal, just another episode of daytime television rolling along as expected. But then the topic shifted. They began discussing working mothers and the pressures of balancing career and family. It was meant to be a light-hearted segment, the kind of relatable conversation that Loose Women had built its reputation on. Denise spoke candidly about her own experiences, sharing stories about the challenges she had faced over the years. Holly leaned forward, her expression shifting slightly. There was something in her eyes, a glint that the cameras caught, but the audience had not yet learned to recognize. "Well, Denise," Holly began, her voice dripping with a sweetness that felt just a bit too thick. "It must have been difficult for you, especially given, your particular circumstances." Denise paused. Her smile faltered for just a moment. "My particular circumstances?" "You know what I mean," Holly continued, waving her hand dismissively. "Not everyone has had the easiest time with these things. Some of us manage it better than others." The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence. Nadia shifted in her seat, exchanging a quick glance with Kay. The audience members looked at each other, uncertain whether they had heard correctly. Denise straightened in her chair. "Holly, I am not sure I understand what you are trying to say. Are you suggesting something about my parenting?" Holly laughed, but it was not a warm sound. It was sharp, almost cruel. "Oh, come on, Denise. We all know about your struggles. The papers have been full of them for years. I am just saying that perhaps if you had prioritized differently, things might have turned out better for you." The gasps from the audience were audible now. This was not the playful banter that viewers had come to expect. This was something else entirely, something darker and more personal. Kay tried to intervene, her voice careful and measured. "Holly, maybe we should move on to another topic." But Holly was not finished. She turned to face Denise more directly, her posture aggressive, despite the forced smile still plastered on her face. "I mean, look at me. I have managed to balance everything perfectly. My children are thriving. My career is at its peak. And I have never had to resort to the kind of attention-seeking behavior that some people use to stay relevant." Denise's face flushed. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. "Attention-seeking behavior? Is that what you think my honesty is?" "I think," Holly said slowly, deliberately, "that some people will say or do anything to keep themselves in the spotlight, even if it means airing their dirty laundry for the whole world to see. It is quite sad, really." Nadia jumped in, her voice rising with urgency. "Holly, that is completely out of line. Denise has been nothing but brave in sharing her experiences to help other people." Holly turned on Nadia with surprising speed. "Oh, please, do not pretend this is about helping people. This is about selling books and getting interviews. Let us be honest about what this really is." The other panelists were stunned into silence. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to a commercial break, but the moment was unfolding too quickly. Everything was spiraling out of control right there on live television. Denise took a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. "Holly, I came here today as a guest on this show. I expected to have a conversation, not to be attacked for being open about my life. What you are doing right now is not okay. Attacked? Holly scoffed. You are being far too sensitive. This is what we do on this show. We have honest conversations. Yeah, or are you only comfortable with honesty when you are the one controlling the narrative? There's a difference between honest conversation and personal attacks, Denise replied, her voice steady despite the obvious anger building beneath the surface. What you are doing is cruel and unnecessary. Holly leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. I am simply pointing out facts. If you cannot handle a little bit of truth, then maybe you should not be putting yourself out there in the first place. Kay made another attempt to redirect. Why don't we take a quick break and come back to this discussion when everyone has had a moment to collect themselves? But Holly ignored her completely. She was locked onto Denise now, like a predator circling its prey. You know what your problem is, Denise. You want everyone to feel sorry for you. You want us all to pat you on the back and tell you how brave you are. But the truth is, you made your choices, and now you have to live with them. Some of us just make better choices. That was the breaking point. Denise stood up from her chair, her face a mixture of hurt and rage. Better choices? You think you are better than me because you have managed to keep your struggles private? That does not make you stronger, Holly. That makes you a coward. The audience erupted in shocked murmurs. This had gone far beyond uncomfortable television. This was a full-blown confrontation, playing out in front of millions of viewers. Holly stood as well, her composure finally cracking. How dare you call me a coward? I have worked incredibly hard to get where I am. I have sacrificed and struggled and pushed through every obstacle. I do not need someone like you telling me what kind of person I am. Someone like me? Denise repeated, her voice rising. What exactly does that mean, Holly? Please, enlighten us all. What kind of person am I? You are the kind of person who uses their pain as currency, Holly shot back. You turn everything into a performance. Your mental health, your family issues, your entire life is just one big, dramatic production designed to keep you relevant. Nadia stood up, her face flushed with anger. Holly, stop it right now. This is absolutely unacceptable. You owe Denise an apology. I owe her nothing, Holly snapped, turning her attention to Nadia. And if you cannot see what I am talking about, then you are just as deluded as she is. Kay was on her feet now too, her voice shaking with emotion. Holly, saying you need to calm down and think about what you are saying. This is not who we are. This is not what this show is about. But Holly was too far gone. The mask had completely slipped away, revealing something ugly underneath. This show is whatever I say it is. I am the one who brings in the viewers. I am the one people tune in to see, not any of you. The studio had gone deadly quiet. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether they should intervene or simply bear witness to the destruction unfolding before them. Even the camera operators seemed uncertain, their equipment capturing every devastating moment, but the people behind them visibly uncomfortable with what they were recording. One audience member near the front row could be heard whispering to her companion, I cannot believe this is happening. This is supposed to be a friendly show. Her words carried in the terrible silence, and Holly's head snapped toward the audience. If you have something to say it loud enough for everyone to hear, she snapped, her voice sharp and cutting. The audience member shrank back in her seat, mortified at being called out. Nadia immediately stood up again, her voice rising with indignation. Holly, now you are attacking audience members too? What is wrong with you today? Nothing is wrong with me, Holly shot back. I am simply tired of everyone acting like I am the problem here, when clearly Denise is the one who came here looking for sympathy and attention. Denise shook her head slowly, her expression shifting from anger to something closer to pity. You really believe that, don't you? You actually think that you are more important than everyone else here. That is truly sad, Holly. Because one day, and it will happen sooner than you think, you are going to realize that treating people this way has consequences. Consequences? Holly repeated with a bitter laugh. From who? From you? You have no power here, Denise. You are just a guest on my show, and guests can be replaced. Kay stood up again, her hands trembling with barely contained anger. Stop saying it is your show. This is all of our show. We are a panel, Holly. A team. Or at least we were supposed to be. A team implies equal contribution, Holly said coldly. And we all know who the real star is here. Who do you think people tune in to see? It is not you, Kay. And it is certainly not Nadia. They come for me. The cruelty of her words landed like bombs in the studio. Nadia's face crumpled, tears welling up in her eyes. Kay looked as though she had been physically struck. Even some of the crew members were visibly shaken by the viciousness of Holly's attack. How can you say that? Nadia whispered, her voice breaking. We have worked together for years. I thought we were friends. Friends do not compete, Holly said dismissively. And make no mistake, this has always been a competition, one that I have been winning. Denise stepped forward, positioning herself slightly in front of Nadia in a protective gesture. Listen to yourself, Holly. You are not just attacking me anymore. You are turning on your own colleagues, the people who sit beside you every single day. Is this really who you want to be? Holly laughed again. That same cruel sound from earlier. Is that a threat? Are you threatening me on my own show? It is not a threat, Denise said quietly. It is a fact. You can only burn so many bridges before you find yourself stranded on an island of your own making. Get out, Holly said suddenly, her voice cold and sharp. Get off my set. You are not welcome here anymore. Denise stared at her for a long moment. Your set? This is not your set, Holly. This is a television show with multiple hosts and guests. You do not own this space. I said get out, Holly repeated, her voice rising to a shout. Security. I want her removed from the building immediately. Nadia stepped between them, her hands raised in a placating gesture. Holly, please. You cannot just kick a guest off the show like this. Think about what you are doing. I know exactly what I am doing, Holly said, her eyes never leaving Denise's face. I am removing a toxic presence from my show. She came here to cause drama, and I am not going to allow it. Kay was shaking her head in disbelief. She came here to promote her work and have a conversation. You are the one who turned this into something ugly. You need to take responsibility for your actions. Holly whirled on Kay, her finger pointed accusingly. Do not lecture me about responsibility. I have been doing this job longer than you have been on this panel. I know how to handle difficult guests. Difficult guests? Denise said, her voice barely above a whisper. I have done nothing wrong here. All I did was share my experiences honestly, and you attacked me for it. You made this personal. You crossed every line there is to cross. You made it personal the moment you started using your problems for profit, Holly retorted. Do not act like you are some innocent victim. You knew exactly what you were doing when you wrote that book, when you gave those interviews. You wanted attention, and now you have it. Congratulations. Denise's composure was remarkable, given the circumstances. She took a breath before responding. You know what, Holly? I did write a book. I did give interviews. And do you know why? Because when I was at my lowest point, struggling with things I did not understand, I felt completely alone. I thought I was the only person in the world going through what I was experiencing. And then I found other people's stories, other people's honesty, and it saved me. It gave me hope. So yes, I chose to share my story because I wanted to be for someone else what those brave people were for me. How noble, Holly said with dripping sarcasm. A modern-day saint, are we? No, Denise said firmly. Just a human being who believes in helping others when possible. Something you might want to try sometime. Holly's face flushed an angry red. I help people every day. This show helps people. I help people. Do you? Denise challenged. Because from where I am standing, all I see is someone tearing down anyone who threatens her position. That is not help, Holly. That is self-preservation at the expense of others. The audience was completely silent now, every person riveted by the exchange. This had gone so far beyond typical television drama. This was real, raw, and painful to watch. Kay tried once more to intervene. Please, both of you, this has gotten out of hand. Can we just take a moment to breathe and calm down? But Holly was not interested in calming down. She turned her attention back to Denise with renewed fury. You want to know what your real problem is? You have convinced yourself that sharing your struggles makes you brave. But it does not. It makes you weak. Strong people deal with their problems privately. They do not parade them around for public consumption. That is where you are wrong, Denise said, her voice gaining strength. It takes incredible courage to be vulnerable in public, to open yourself up to judgment and criticism, to risk people like you using your honesty as a weapon against you. That is real strength, Holly, not hiding behind a perfect image while you rot from the inside out. The words struck a nerve. Holly's carefully maintained facade cracked even further. How dare you presume to know anything about me or my life? I do not presume to know anything about your life, Denise replied calmly, but I know what I see right now, and what I see is someone so terrified of showing any weakness that she has to attack anyone who dares to be human in front of her. Nadia was nodding, tears still streaming down her face. She is right, Holly. This is not about Denise. This is about you and whatever you are dealing with that has made you so cruel today. I am not cruel, Holly insisted, but her voice had lost some of its conviction. I am honest. No, Kay said sadly. Honesty does not require cruelty. You can be truthful without being vicious. What you have done today is not honesty. It is an attack. Plain and simple. The producers were in Holly's earpiece now, trying to regain control. But Holly ripped the earpiece out, throwing it onto the table. I am done with this, she announced to no one in particular. Either she goes or I go. Make your choice. Denise picked up her bag from beside her chair. Her movements were slow and deliberate, dignified despite the chaos surrounding her. You do not need to worry about that, Holly. I am leaving, but not because you told me to. I am leaving because I have too much self-respect to sit here and be abused by someone who clearly has no idea what real strength looks like. She turned to face Nadia and Kay. Thank you both for trying to stand up for me. I appreciate it. Then she looked back at Holly one final time. I genuinely hope you find some peace, Holly. Then because carrying around all that anger and insecurity must be exhausting. I would not wish that on anyone. With that, Denise walked off the set. Her head was held high, her steps steady. The cameras followed her to the edge of the stage. The studio remained in shocked silence for several seconds. The audience did not know whether to applaud or sit in stunned disbelief. Some were crying. Holly stood frozen at the desk, her chest heaving with rapid breaths. The reality of what had just happened seemed to be sinking in, but she showed no signs of remorse. Instead, she turned to the camera with a forced smile that did not reach her eyes. Well, she said, her voice brittle and too bright, that certainly was dramatic. Some people just cannot handle a real conversation. Nadia sat back down heavily, her head in her hands. Kay stared at Holly with an expression of pure disbelief, as though she was looking at a stranger. Holly, Kay said carefully, do you understand what you just did? I handled a difficult situation, Holly replied defensively. That is what a host does. No, Nadia said, looking up with tears in her eyes. What a host does is create a safe space for honest conversation. What you did was attack a guest for being vulnerable. You humiliated her in front of millions of people. That is not hosting. That is bullying. Holly's facade cracked just a little. I was not bullying anyone. I was simply being honest about what I saw. If she could not handle that, then maybe she should not have come on the show. She came on the show in good faith, Kay said, her voice tight with controlled anger. She trusted us to treat her with respect. Oh, Marian, and you violated that trust in the worst possible way. The producers were signaling frantically from behind the cameras, trying to get someone to cut to a commercial break, but the panelists were too engrossed in their confrontation to notice. Holly looked between Nadia and Kay, seeing the judgment in their eyes. You are both overreacting. This will blow over. It always does. No, Nadia said firmly. I do not think it will. Not this time. The weight of those words hung in the air. Holly tried to maintain her composure, but something in her expression shifted. For just a moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Kay stood up slowly, straightening her jacket. I need to go check on Denise. Make sure she is okay after what just happened. You are going after her? Holly asked, her voice rising in pitch. You are taking her side over mine? This is not about sides, Holly, Kay replied sadly. This is about right and wrong. And what you did today was wrong. Nadia stood as well. I am going with Kay. Denise should not be alone right now. Holly watched as both of her fellow panelists walked off the set, leaving her standing alone at the desk. The audience was murmuring louder now, the shocked whispers building into a dull roar of conversation. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of Holly's isolation. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling around her, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She turned back to the camera one more time, trying to regain some semblance of control. But the words would not come. For once in her career, Holly Willoughby was speechless. The producers finally managed to cut to a commercial break, the screen fading to black as Holly stood alone on the set. The silence that followed was deafening. In the green room, Denise was sitting quietly, her hands clasped in her lap. She was not crying, though her eyes were red. She looked tired, but resolute. Kay and Nadia found her there, surrounded by the trappings of television production. Denise, Kay said softly, sitting down beside her. Are you all right? Denise looked up, managing a small smile. I will be. Thank you for coming to find me. We are so sorry, Nadia said. What happened out there should never have happened. Holly was completely out of line. I know, Denise said quietly. I never expected that kind of hostility from her. Kay shook her head. And I have never seen her act like that before. Maybe that is who she really is, Denise suggested. Maybe the persona is the act. The three women sat in silence for a moment, processing what had occurred. What are you going to do now? Nadia asked. Denise took a deep breath. I am going to go home. I am going to hug my family. And I am going to remember that my worth is not determined by how one person chooses to treat me. That is very wise, Kay said. You handled yourself with incredible grace out there. I tried not to stoop to her level, Denise admitted. It was hard. Part of me wanted to fight back, but I realized that would not accomplish anything. You are neither unstable nor dramatic, Nadia said firmly. You are honest and brave. Please do not let what happened today make you doubt that. Denise nodded. Thank you, both of you. It means more than you know to have people in my corner. Back on the set, Holly was in her dressing room. She sat in front of her mirror, looking at her own reflection. Her phone was buzzing incessantly. Messages were pouring in, but she could not bring herself to read them. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. One of the producers entered. Holly, he said cautiously, we need to talk about what happened out there. Not now, Holly said. I need some time to think. I am afraid we do not have time, the producer replied. The network is demanding answers. This is becoming a major incident. Holly finally turned to face him. It will blow over. The producer looked uncomfortable. What happened today was broadcast live. There is no way to take it back. You attacked a guest on air. She provoked me, Holly said weakly. We both know that is not true. We have the footage. Denise did nothing wrong. The words hit Holly like a physical blow, because deep down, she knew he was right. What happens now? She asked quietly. The producer sighed. That is up to the network, but prepare yourself for consequences. He left her alone, the door clicking shut with finality. Holly turned back to the mirror, really looking at herself this time. The makeup was still perfect, the hair immaculate, but something in her eyes had changed. The confidence was gone, replaced by the realization of what she had done. In the green room, Denise was gathering her things. Kay and Nadia had stayed with her, offering support and solidarity in the aftermath of the confrontation. You know, Denise said, pausing as she picked up her coat, I almost feel sorry for her. Kay looked surprised. Sorry for Holly? After what she did to you? I know it sounds strange, Denise admitted, but there is something deeply sad about someone who feels the need to tear others down to feel better about themselves. That kind of behavior comes from a place of pain and insecurity. It does not excuse what she did, but it does explain it. Nadia shook her head in amazement. You are far more generous than I would be in your position. I am furious on your behalf. I appreciate that, Denise said with a genuine smile. And I am angry too. But I have learned over the years that holding on to anger only hurts me in the end. Holly will have to face the consequences of her actions. That is not my responsibility. The three women walked together toward the exit. As they stepped out into the daylight, Denise paused and took a deep breath. You know what the ironic thing is? She said. Holly was right about one thing. I did share my struggles publicly, but I did not do it for attention. I did it because I believed it might help someone else. And if today showed me anything, it is that honesty is still worth fighting for. Kay and Nadia both hugged her. The moment would later become iconic, a symbol of women supporting each other. Inside the building, Holly was still in her dressing room. The phone had stopped buzzing, which somehow felt worse than the constant notifications. The silence was oppressive, heavy with the weight of consequences yet to come. She thought about Denise's final words to her. The hope that she would find peace. The suggestion that carrying anger and insecurity was exhausting. At the time, Holly had dismissed it as sanctimonious nonsense. But now, sitting alone in the aftermath of her own destruction, she wondered if there had been truth in those words. The door opened again, and this time it was the executive producer. His face was grave. Holly, he began, the network has made a decision. She looked up at him, and for the first time that day, she felt genuine fear. Not fear of losing her position or her reputation, though those things mattered, but fear of the person she had revealed herself to be. I understand, she said quietly, before he could continue. Whatever they have decided, I understand. The story of what happened that day would be told and retold countless times. But in that moment, in that studio, it was simply about two women. One who had chosen to be honest about her struggles, and one who had chosen to attack her for it. One who walked away with her dignity intact, and one who was left to face the ruins of what she had built. The cameras had captured it all. Every word, every expression, every moment of the confrontation that had shocked a nation. It was raw, unscripted reality television at its most brutal. And it had happened because someone in a position of power had forgotten the most basic rule of decency. Treat others with respect, because in the end, how we treat people reveals more about our character than anything we do in the spotlight.